Welcome to Misbehaving in Maine. I'm Dan Williams. This story is called Are You My Lover? And now, here goes everything. I always wanted to fall in love too much. How much? Take a look at my childhood. All Disney had to do was put eyeshadow and clothes or no clothes on animals, and I fell in love. With foxes, dogs, and lions, and when all the Bambi animals caught a raging case of mating season and an orgy was in the works, I was first in line. When your will to fall in love is as strong as mine, it secretes a repellent that potential lovers can smell from 3,000 meters away. These lovers get the impression that folks like me don't actually want to fall in love with them. We want to fall in love with love itself. The lovers feel used. They think we see them as nothing more than love syringes. By the way I'm talking, you're assuming I'm not good looking. You're wrong. I am good looking. However, my looks can't be trusted. They're fair weather looks. They depend heavily on light, time, and the charity of the observer. But to be honest about observers and cameras and mirrors, none of them can capture my looks properly because of the observer's paradox. What's that? This. The idea that the act of observing a phenomenon can alter its state or behavior. So, thanks to the paradox, we'll never know if I'm a 10 or not, which means I very well could be. Thank God for the paradox. Honestly, though, I'm what's known as commoner hot. I've heard people say I look like Hugh Jackman. What they mean is I could pass for the small, unsuccessful twin of Hugh Jackman, the one he ate in the womb. At other times, I'm the twin he didn't eat, not appetizing enough. His mother reabsorbed and voided me through every hole, turning her body into a Play-Doh Fun Factory spaghetti maker, etc. Enough about my looks. What about my other love obstacles? Here's one: self-confidence. It's exactly like my looks. It cannot be trusted. Sometimes I feel so good about being me that I expect my backside to sprout a conga line of cult members. At other times, I'm so empty, I get confused when people like me, when they want to hang out. I can't imagine what's in it for them. You want to share a Taco Bell moment with this husk? What do you see in me beyond water and excrement? I'm just curious. Lovers can smell this, too. And I do mean Taco Bell. Whenever I come home having rung my bell, my Mindy won't kiss me for 24 hours. Also, I mean lovers can smell confidence problems. Maybe it's a primal thing. For example, lady gorillas turn up their noses when men gorillas' pecs are uneven, one smaller than the other, signifying the inability to hold a push-up during lovemaking. Or maybe it's just that lousy confidence is boring. When superheroes lose confidence, for example, their movies descend into long swamps of dialogue, which means we have to wade through 40 effing minutes of them finding themselves so they can get back to the America in their hearts and do what we pay them for, which is beating differently moraled people half to death, praise God. I'm a self-confident mutant. I mutate, or pupate. What I mean is, you'll see me strutting like Gatsby one day, and then later that day, maybe that second, Gatsby will vomit dead confidence all over himself, creating a reflective slick that only shows people bad reflections of themselves. In other words, I mimic. I don't do this for sinister reasons, but for the most innocent. Survival. All an empty man can do is try to blend in. If it's all this bad, how did I ever win my Mindy? Dump 25 years of heartache and savage disappointment onto a heart, and it calms down a little, enough to stop secreting sex repellent. And now for 3 bad dating experiences, 2 of which are mine. The other isn't mine, but it's awesome. 1. One of my friends went on a date with a girl. They went to a restaurant that had an upstairs section. You'd get your food at the counter, put it on a tray, then carry the tray to your table. Dull folks stayed on the first floor. The adventurous climbed a set of 15 steps to the second. My buddy was feeling adventurous because he was having the time of his life. He'd liked this girl forever, and now they were on a date. She was so beautiful, he told me, like an angel. And like an angel, she had dressed in white, all white. I don't know what my buddy wore. I can't picture it. All I can see is his happy smile cutting his head in half like a zipper of teeth that goes all the way around. Happiness can make a person whistle. It can make them laugh long and loud. And it can make people do what my friend did. You'll see. Miss Heavenly followed my buddy to the stairs. By the way, what did they have for food? I don't know, but probably corn chowder, chili, loaded nachos, and triple sauce spaghetti. At the top step, my buddy's happiness overflowed. He would have clapped his hands, but his hands were full of his tray. When you're boiling over with clap, happy, hallelujah energy, but your hands are taken, your body seeks other avenues. Take babies, for example. Mr. Baby's hands are full, stuck to his hair by caramel. Baby's mouth is packed with dirty pennies. Ever wonder where the pennies go? That's where. So all our baby can do to express his joy is kick and jolt those chub-a-dub legs. My friend was in a similar predicament. Hands full of tray, mouth full of rolling, flip-flopping tongue action, for the tongue silently practiced all the wonder words it might say at the table. This left only the legs for expressing big joy. Long legs. My friend is quite tall. At the top step of the restaurant stairs, my buddy did a little happy jump and a little happy kick. It was a backwards kick that snapped his heel up. How fast? The speed of mousetraps or catapults. And he did this with his big foot, for his long legs ended in big feet. Yes, friends and neighbors, my buddy's happiness overflowed. It caused him to jump and kick up his leg, kick it back. This whipped his boot up into the bottom of the dream girl's tray. This launched corn chowder, chili, loaded nachos, and triple sauce spaghetti right into her angel face and all over her white as snow outfit. And this concluded the date. It concluded the potential for all future dates. Remember when I told you I wanted to fall in love too badly? Here's how badly. If the price for going on a date was getting hot supper kicked in my face, I would have considered it a bargain, an appetizer of the love feast to come. 2. After a bewitching encounter with an extremely optimistic mirror, I felt fine enough to invite a lady to the movies one evening. No Country for Old Men. She broke the date's ice by saying, "We're just friends." By the end of the movie, I was so haunted and amazed by the performances that I felt like wandering out into the city and pretending to be an old man, a man so old he's lost his country. "Where's my country?" I said. "I'm going home," said my brand new friend. She drove away. She had insisted that we drive separately, I guess to make plenty of room for the blossoming friendship, and I watched her car disappear like it was a disappearing country. When I couldn't see it anymore, I whispered, "No country." Then I walked. It was winter, and it was Maine. Snow country. I headed for the harbor. There I found a set of footsteps leading down a long pier that was lighted by bulbs the color of romance. In other words, pumpkins and dying suns. I followed the footsteps and came to believe these were old man steps, my steps from the future. This ancient romantic that I would become had gone out walking alone. Why had he sought the pier's end? Maybe so he could gaze over the poetic darkness of the sea while analyzing the date he'd just emerged from, hunting for proof of the lady's extremely concealed interest in him. But I can't know for sure. I'll have to wait and see. His steps stopped a few feet from the end and stood in a gunslinger's stance, side by side and boots wide. Old man versus the sea, the universe. Dear universe, you have the power to turn just friendship into love so fast and hot that it turns around right now and races back into the city to find me. I walked right up and plugged my boots into those two last prints, and Walt Whitman flew out of me as suddenly as a sneeze. "Oh, Captain," I said. Then another, "My Captain." One more was on the way. I tend to Whitman in threes. But I happened to notice something that scared my third Whitman away. In front of my boots, there was a hole in the snow. A hole that must have been sketched by an unsteady hand. A little lonesome pee hole in the snow. And I knew two things. My future self has far fewer inhibitions. And my future self still hasn't found his lover. Otherwise, there would have been two pee holes in the snow. 3. I went to a small Christian school for 7th and 8th grade. The school had basketball games in a gym that morphed into a sanctuary on Sunday for church. It didn't take much to make the change. Church and basketball are basically the same. Sweaty, too many people, and God hates it. I didn't play basketball. Even when I was on the team, I didn't play. I sat on benches. Even when we were losing so badly that the coach put me in, I didn't play basketball. I wore the shorts and side boob shirts, but what I played was hot potato, which is something, but it isn't basketball. That night, however, I was just an audience member, and that night, I met a girl. A friend of mine had invited friends from a different school. One of the strangers was a pretty girl. Something about being near basketball but not in it gave me a rush of self-confidence, and I talked to her. I talked long enough to say, "Want to go to the movies with me?" I don't know if she said okay immediately or had to think about it for a while. What mattered was that she said okay, and this threw me into a daze of glory. For every minute after her "okay," while my peers thumped, bumped, and dripped up and down God's court, everything was good. Even sports were good. I cheered and stomped my feet. I did the wave, alone. I was wild with the glow of love. The time came for the movie date, and it was going to be a friend affair, a pack of my pals and a pack of my date's pals from that other school. I should now tell you what the girl looked like. Black hair, big eyes, too beautiful. Her name was Jessica. "I can't believe she wants to go out with me," I told my dad. Dad said, "That's the spirit." When I got to the movie theater and met my friends who were standing with the other friends, I looked through the group for a beautiful girl named Jessica. She wasn't there. Someone must have noticed me looking all around, and they must have heard me say something like, "Where's Jessica?" Because a girl with brown hair said something surprising. Something like, "Jessica sent me." I processed. Jessica is not here. Jessica is at home. Jessica's very possibly out on a date with someone who isn't me. Jessica sent a different girl in her place. A substitute? A substitute? Oh, I said. What else could a person say? The word gave me time to realize Jessica's okay had just been the larval stage of her no way. It also gave me time to realize you can send a surrogate date on your date. That's a thing. It doesn't happen much, I don't think. Maybe it only happened once, but once is enough. It's plenty. The surrogate said, "I'm Amy." We shook hands, which can be the greeting equivalent of, "Oh." And then, as we were all making our way into the theater, she said, "Sorry I'm not Jessica." Then I said, "That's okay." I meant it, because I was going on a date with a girl. Amy, I think. She only said her name once, and I'm bad with names. However, I am very good with falling in love. Before the trailers ended, I was already halfway gone. And if we all decided on ice cream after the movie and Amy didn't show up but sent Betty or Caroline in her place, that would have been okay too. Because, ladies of the world, it was never really about you. It was about love. Always love. Which is something like a country you cannot lose, if you can find it, and something like the sea, the universe, and 3 Whitmans in a row. God bless you. It was about slowly and surely overcoming Disney's catchy zoophilia and learning to accept that scientifically no one will ever really know how good-looking I am, so who cares? And yes, it was probably about learning to find myself or whatever, love myself. But it was definitely about the future, someone waiting for me there, a person finally old enough to stand in a showdown against desperation, inhibitions aside, and say, "Oh, Dan, my Dan, our fearful trip is done. We've finally given up, which means our love life has begun." This has been Misbehaving in Maine. See you next time. And if you'd like to fire some support my way, check out my book, Misbehaving in Maine, 30 Half-Learned Lessons. You can find it on my website, danwilliamswrites.com. That's danwilliamswrites.com. Friends and neighbors, thank you. And remember, you may be wicked, you may be weird, but you're not alone.